Good evening. My name is Helen Anthony, Chair on the Committee of Finance to the City of Providence City Council. I'm calling to order our regular meeting Thursday, January 25th, 2024 at 5:30. Will you please call the roll?
Chairwoman Anthony.
Present.
Thank you.
Vice Chairman Taylor.
Here.
Councilor Endelbloom. Here. Councilor Sanchez.
Here.
Four present. We have a plan.
Thank you so much. I'd also like to recognize our wonderful clerks, Lauren Gutierrez and Donna Legion. We have Ken Federini from the City Solicitor's Office. Thank you so much for attending. And we have let's see, person here who is here with us this evening also. So thank you. All right. So with that, I would like to have item number 1 read.
Okay, communication from its owner, the mayor dated December 1st, 2023, informing that the honorable members of the city council that pursuant to the section 302B and 1011 of the Providence Home Rule Charter of 1980, as amended in Public Law, Chapter 45-50, Section 1 through 31, passed in 1987. We in this date reappointing Christine West of 1 Central Street, Providence, Rhode Island, 02907, as a member from the Building Board of Review for a term to expire on January 31st, 2029, and respectfully submit the same for your approval.
Wonderful. And I believe we have a revised resume that we would like to mark as exhibit number 1. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Councilor Sanchez, seconded by Councilor Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, and we have Christine West joining us today again. Thank you so much.
Thank
We're going to swear you in, and then we will take your testimony.
Please raise your right hand. Swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
And just state your name for the record, please.
Christine West. Well, thank you for coming.
Of course.
And thank you for, as I said, when I greeted you today, thank you for continuing to serve the city you've been a tremendous public servant. We do appreciate it. So if you wouldn't mind just giving us a very brief history of your work background and what other boards you've served on.
Okay, thank you. So I'm an architect. I'm one of the 2 owners of Kite Architects that is celebrating its 50th year here in Providence. The majority of our work is very local, Providence even, as well as Rhode Island projects in other states, but Providence is near and dear to our hearts. Over my career, I've done an undergraduate degree at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, worked in the DC area for almost 10 years, felt kind of unsatisfied that it wasn't really making enough of a change. And so I went back to graduate school to study sustainability and specifically innovation around the practice of architecture. And small firm practice has always been my passion. So I moved to Providence in 2003 to join Bill Kite and quickly became one of the owners. We have been very intentional about building our practice around projects that serve the public good. We have great many institutions like Brown University, but also Crossroads Rhode Island, YWCA, many others, and a range of projects, keep it interesting. So I would say that I'm on the technical and code side of things, consider myself slightly a code geek, I will say. To make an impact, you really have to consider the very serious ramifications of architecture on health and safety. And I think that's particularly where this board fits my strengths, careful reading of the code and an understanding of how it applies maybe in situations where it's not literal. We have a housing stock in Providence that is fairly old compared to the rest of the country, yet we adopt international codes that are built for a world of new construction. So very often our building officials don't have necessarily the tools at their disposal to make a decision unilaterally. They need to come to the building board for that judgment call. So I'm the architect member. There's also a mechanical engineer, contractor, structural engineer. I think we have a vacancy for electrical specific, but it is a professional technical board. So I'm able to contribute where I can contribute best. I feel like we've, made the city safer through vetting, predominantly apartments, I will say. Occasionally, we'll have a major case that is, an institution, something large, but by and large, what we see a lot of are residential conversions. And I will say that if you're not already aware, that the new zoning that has been adopted is definitely going to increase the number of applications for 2 and 3 family legalization. So I'm happy to expound on that if you want, but I think the understanding kind of aspect that will make that conversion safer, yet still preserve our existing housing stock are really important.
And may I just ask a question, and I should know the answer, so I apologize, but what projects come before the board, your board?
Right, so basically, projects that have been denied a permit, and that is every building that requires a building permit, which is anything that is greater than a single family residence, essentially. So that ranges from, say, a triple decker that may have been a 2-family that is trying to legalize itself as a 3-family. That can involve the construction of a new gymnasium at Brown University. It could involve the bathrooms at Wheeler. It's a range, but it relates specifically to the building department's purview. We also have fire review and so forth. But basically, if it's rejected and the building official doesn't have the tools in the code to basically have the jurisdiction to approve something that's slightly different from what the prescribed code says. So I'll give you an example. Yeah. Something that comes up all the time, winders. Those are the triangular stairs that you probably have in your own back hallway. Those are not actually legal in current code. So a lot of times that has to come to us because we have to look at those conditions. We'll often say, well, give us 2 handrails on either side, make it continuous, fix that landing, and set some conditions for approving it. But that's a common example. Almost every house I've seen in Providence has those winders.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. I'll open it up for questions from my committee members. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question.
Councilor Ingeborg.
Thank you, Chairwoman, and thank you, Ms. West, for all of your service. I know when I was serving as chair of the Sustainability Commission, I would sit on CPC meetings sometimes and really appreciate your participation, like your chairwomanship then. And you're not still on the CPC, right?
That's correct, yeah, my term, and you did ask me to say what other boards.
Oh, yeah.
Commission.
Oh, yeah.
I was chair of Providence City Plan Commission for just almost exactly 10 years. Really proud of my service there. As part of that, you know, we did the comprehensive plan 10 years ago, and the zoning revisions in 2014. I'm pretty proud of the fact that I think a lot of the development that we've seen over the last decade that's enabled our city's growth was a direct result of some of the things that were enabled in that zoning. I'm really looking forward to the new comp plan process and seeing what further zoning amendments we can make to ease the shortage of housing in the city.
Awesome. And I have one question, and also I was glad to find out that those winders are actually not part of the code, because I've lived in my house and I've fallen down my stairs probably like 15 times. Yeah. And no handles. And I walked fast. I was just chatting with someone from the Builders Association, and I'm excited that Rhode Island just adopted the 2024 International Energy Conservation Code, first in the country to do so, and also will be a big challenge to get folks up to speed. And I'm just kind of wondering what the role of the Board of Review could be in that process.
Yeah, so it's a great question. You know, those requirements are going to be very stringent. Yeah, I think it's important to understand though that the building code generally applies only to new construction or major alterations. You know, rule of thumb is if it exists now, it doesn't have to be brought up to current code. I mean, we'd all be in a lot of trouble. There's no way to do that. But if you're going to make major changes, anything that gets put in new, so if you were to replace your windows, for example, if you're not in a historic window and you're allowed to do that, those windows have to meet the solar heating and new values of it, but the whole house doesn't need to be upgraded. There is a rule though, that if 50% of the value, so say you buy a house for $200,000 and you put another 200,000 into it, then you're starting to meet the requirements of the new code. So major gut renovations are really going to have to work hard to meet that new code. And I think that with our historic and non-historic older housing stock, that could be a real challenge. I foresee a fair amount of people coming to waive those requirements where it may be very difficult to insulate to the level is required. I'll give you an example. Continuous exterior insulation, very common in new construction now, very difficult to do on an older home. You have to take all the siding, all the trim off. You can imagine how much of of an intensive effort that is. So we may see waivers requests based on that. There are equivalent paths, and that's where our judgment as an expert board comes in to say, okay, let's satisfy this with interior insulation, for example.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's really complete. And I'd love in some future time, I know this council knows, but I'm just really passionate about how we move to a zero carbon future. And we'd love to think, given the very old housing and unique housing stock we have here, thinking about what that looks like, from your perspective and like your technical expertise, but that could be for another time. I'll let anyone else ask questions.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Weiss, for your service. Seems like you're super passionate and knowledgeable about this stuff. Just for like my understanding, how often does this board meet?
It's a monthly meeting. I will say that since the pandemic and there has been some turnover at the building department, I think that I think the world of the new building official James Moore, head of Department of Inspections and Standards, I think they work to use the tools at their disposal to help the developers, builders to meet the code without having to come to us. So there's been a little bit of a dip in sort of reviewing that. But it is a monthly meeting. And it's during the middle of the day, but it's a professional service. You know, I feel like I get as much out of it as I put into it. So happy to make the time out of practice.
Awesome. And then just for my understanding also, who publishes the building code, or where does that come from? Who's the author?
Yeah, so basically the International Code Council is literally an international body that meets every 2 to 3 years. Well, they meet continuously, but they come out with a new code cycle. The last one is 21. They publish this in a whole series of buildings, buildings with 20 code, mechanical code, and so on. And then it's up to the state to adopt it. So I also served. They sort of one of listen. Person. Oh, that's important stuff. Right. Okay, so yes, so the International Code Council publishes these books, and then most of the states in the United States then adopt that but add their own amendments, and Rhode Island is no different. So I served for a time on the state board. That's a larger board at the state level, and they review the codes and say, well, what is unique about Rhode Island that you need an exception for? And so that was great. I served on the energy code portion of that to help determine, you know, what do we want to adopt, what's appropriate for our climate, what's appropriate for our housing stuff. And that's our opportunity to actually change policy that locals us. So, for example, I know that there's been a fairly recent major change to gender inclusive bathrooms. But before that, we had actually put a stopgap measure to basically allow very small restaurants and commercial spaces to have a single gender neutral bathroom. It was necessary economically, culturally, it seemed to be where people were at. So we were able to write that into the state code to differentiate it from, say, what Ohio made. But all the municipalities do need to follow the same state code. As a city, we're not allowed to layer in our own regulations. That's based on state law.
What group is that? The state?
The state building board of contract, you know, I'm gonna miss that up. It's the state building board, right? And that's run out of the state building officials office in Capitol. Yeah, and that's a board that's a member statewide. It has a fair amount of building officials as well as architects, engineers, contractors, other talented people. Yeah, and so if our board is appealed, just to eliminate the process. So if somebody in Providence takes issue with the determination is made, the appeal process goes to that state board and their determination is fine.
Okay, any other questions? All right, well then I will take a motion. To approve. Yes. Okay, the motion to approve by Councilor Anderson, seconded by Councilor Taylor, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. I am so sorry, everyone, it's gonna be a little noisy. Let's see. Madam Clerk, we can read item number 2.
Item 2, communication from. informing the Honorable member of the City Council to pursue the section 302 and 314 of the Providence County Rule Charter of 1980 as amended. In this day, we appointed Eugene Hackett of 70 Elmwood Avenue, Providence, Rhode Island, 02906, as a member of the Board of Tax Assessment and Review for a term to expire January 31st, 2027, and respectfully submit the same for your approval.
Mr. Hackett. Very nice of you to come tonight, thank you.
Last time it was advisory.
If you mind being sworn in, we'll start with that.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I-
Then please state your name for the record.
James Hackett.
Mr. Hackett, again, thank you very much for your willingness to be reappointed to the Board of Tax Assessment and Review. I'm just wondering if you can give us just a very brief description of your background and why you want to continue serving on the Tax Board of Review.
Well, I'm a practicing lawyer, primarily real estate in Massachusetts, in Boston, for, let's just say over 50 years. And I still practice part-time. I was appointed to the board, I'm actually not sure, during David Cicilline's administration, so I think I've been on the board about 15 years. And I think I've served as chairman of the board probably 12 or 15 years. And I've been a resident of Providence for 30 years, and my wife's been a resident for almost 50 years. It's just my bailiwick dealing with real estate values. I should note though that our board also deals with personal property taxes, so it's not as much on the real estate.
And how often do you meet, Mr. Hackett? I just didn't know how often your board meets.
Well, it frankly depends on the time. Right now, we're on a schedule about once a month. In the past, we've had meetings a lot more frequently, but right now we're on that schedule approximately once a month.
Okay, all right. And I just also wanted to mention, it was something that just came to my attention. I'll just say, I was, so do you hear complaints from people, from developers that have received tax stabilization agreements? Do they actually appeal their taxes?
Well, under the newer TSAs, the valuation is actually determined year to year or every 3 years by the assessor. So they can appeal their value in some of the cases. The older ones didn't work that way, but the newer TSAs, they can appeal their valuations. In fact, we were originally scheduled for a meeting tomorrow, but we had several illnesses and we were short-handed, so we had to cancel the meeting. But I believe on the agenda tomorrow was one of the TSA appeals. What the value was.
Okay, I was very shocked to hear that when I heard it, but I'm glad to get a verification.
It's pretty new, yeah.
Okay.
We've actually had people appeal when they weren't entitled to appeal.
Oh, of course.
That's particularly shocking.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna open it up for questions. Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Just a follow-up on that question, Chairman. What do you guys usually decide when those appeals are in front of you?
I'm sorry that.
What's usually like the outcome of tax TSA evaluation appeals when they're in front of you?
Well, I think we pretty much, I can only remember a few. I think we pretty much upheld the city, the city assessment. I do remember one, not that important to go, but the presentation they gave us the whole file, including the presentation to the city council. And it showed what the assessment would be, a projected assessment. And actually, that's what the city did, they assessed those assessments. And I said, how can we not agree with the city on it? It was only a projection, but
Thank you.
but they sort of second it there.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilor Ingebaugh.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you for your service for so many years on the board. Pardon my ignorance, but can you talk a little bit about some of the other agenda items that are frequently on your agenda?
Well, they're all 90% real property value. And, again, as I said, depending on the time, like right now, we do not get any residential appeals,
Yeah.
because everyone thinks, oh, that everything's worth $1 million. I'm only assessed at 800 or something, so we don't get many residential, we get some. And under the current circumstances, most of our appeals are commercial appeals, larger office buildings or other buildings. And in fact, there are quite a few property owners that appeal every single year. So, for example, on the agenda tomorrow, I don't remember how many, but there would be a number of cases that are actually in Superior Court, having been appealed for prior years. And with those cases, we just let the court take them. We deny it and then let the court decide everything. And those cases are typically settled anyway, but they do end up in courts.
Okay, and is that the next step, kind of like after your board is
Yes,
something
that-
that you be able to?
Taxpayer who's been denied or didn't agree with our decision can appeal to the Superior Court.
Okay. And what kind of, sorry, Carlos, but what kind of tools are you using to make the assessment? So if I come and I appeal my property value with you, how are you and your fellow colleagues?
Well, with residences, it's basically typically what the comparables like.
Yeah.
And there's always an issue about whether this set of comparables provided by the city or by the taxpayer are appropriate. To tell you the truth, the assessing formulas the city uses are pretty good, comparables are pretty good.
Okay.
On the income producing properties, it's question of what the financials look like, what the income rates, what the appropriate calculation.
Okay. And then the last question is, half question, half comment. We just had, and I'm pointing at our policy director, Aaron. Sorry. We just had on council, a tax commission, the Tax and Revenue Commission. And, were the results of that shared with you and your board? And I'm also just kind of wondering why we didn't include anyone from that board on that commission, because it seems like you guys are thinking about this all the time.
Well, though that was recommendations as certain changes,
Yeah, it was like a 2-page
Like,
document, yeah.
the homestead exemption and all.
Yeah.
They retain the homestead exemption, except they call it something.
They call it something else, yeah.
That doesn't really affect us in terms of what we're doing.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Good question. Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairman. I know there's like 3 steps. There's you guys and the Superior Court. What's before you before it gets to you?
The first, when you get your tax bill, this is all there a certain time period.
Right.
You can appeal to the assessor.
Right.
And the assessing department reviews it and renders a decision. And if it's adverse, then you have another time period where you can appeal it to our board.
Okay.
So right now, we're seeing a lot of appeals for the current vote for 2023.
And
So I have to tell you, too, sometimes we get appeals years before because they were just sort of, the system was slow.
what is I'm not sure if this has anything to pertain with your board, but doesn't the person that appeals or the entity that appeals, they accrue interest, right, throughout this process?
Well, tax is on a paid accrual use.
Right.
And actually, there are requirements that you can current on your taxes in order for you to appeal.
Okay.
Okay, great. Any other questions? All right, I'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Hackett, really, for your
I actually
testimony.
enjoy working on it.
All right, may I have a motion?
So.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Anibal, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you taking the time this evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, if you would read item number 3, please.
Item 3, communication from owner the mayor dated December 1st, 2023, informing the honorable member of the city council that pursuant to section 302B and A14 of the Providence County Charter of 1980 as amended in public law, chapter 45-50, section 1 through 31, passed in 1987. Being this day appointed Code of V. King of 39 Fish Street, Providence, Rhode Island, 02905, as a member of the Board of Tax Assessment and Review for a term to start January 31st, 2025, and respectfully submits the same for your approval.
Mr. King, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We'll swear you in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And please state your name.
Mr. King, you were applying to be a new member of the Board of Tax Assessment and Review.
Yes,
If you could give us just a little background on your professional and educational background, and also if you can tell us why it is that you'd like to serve on this board, we very much appreciate it.
okay, I'm here with my wife. I don't want to sleep in the doghouse tonight. I'm married, of course. Have 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy, and a host of grandchildren. My daughter is here, Jackie. I work for, on a professional level. I work for Pittsburgh Bank in Massachusetts for 18 years. And 2002, because of the 9/11 situation, all of the financial institutions were hit very hard, and State Street Bank was no exception. So I got laid off from that job. My last position over there was client service manager, where we were around 10 million people. After I left that job, I went to work for the state of Rhode Island, regional taxation. I did that for about 10 to 11 years. 2015, I retired as the investigator, tax investigator. And then covered on the social aspect. I coach basketball, or soccer, and I work extensively with the church. So I think this would be like this stepping stone for me, like get a job like I always be eyeing on bigger things to do. So I think getting on the finance board, my background, I can also help in that all.
Wonderful. And may I just ask, when you were working at the Division of Taxation, what exactly did you do for them?
I was on the collection side.
Okay. And the State Street Bank?
State Bank, client service manager, or dealing with different assets from different companies.
Wonderful. I'm gonna let my committee members, anyone have any questions? Mr. King? Okay. Well, I thank you for your willingness to serve on this. You do have some big shoes to fill. I see that you're taking the seat that Shamari husband vacated, and he's now our treasurer.
I don't know his side about it.
Neither, but we really do appreciate your willingness to serve. It sounds like you have a wonderful background and that you'll bring a wealth of knowledge to the board, and we look forward to working with you. So thank you very much.
And I thank you for inviting me to.
Okay, thank you. Discussion and motion. Motion to approve. Okay, motion to approve by Councilor Vanderbosch, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, if you would read item number 4.
Item 4, communication from owner the major dated December 1st, 2023, informing the honorable member of the city council that pursuant to section 302B and 814 of the Providence Home Rule Charter of 1980, as amended in public law, chapter 45-50, section 1 through 37, passed in 1987, being this day reappointing PNC Metropolitan Squire of 383 Woodward Road, Providence, Rhode Island, 02904, as a member of the Board of Tax Assessment and Review for a term to start January 31st, 2027, and respectfully submit the same to your approval.
And I think we need a motion to amend, I believe. I'm so sorry, Mr. Napolitano, we have misspelled your name. I understand. We are going to amend the spelling of Stephen. We're going to replace the B with PH. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I would need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the amendment to spell Stephen with PH.
Second.
A motion made by Councilor Anderblock, seconded by Councilor Taylor. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, and I don't think we have any other amendments, so thank you, Mr. Napolitano. We will swear you in.
Please raise your right hand. You swear that you will make perjury, that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
And just please state your name, please, repeat again.
David T. Napolitano. That's with a PH.
If you would be so kind as to give us just a little bit about your background and why you want to continue serving on the Board of Tax Assessment and Review.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I truly feel as though this is an honor to serve on this board. I enjoy serving on it. My history, expertise is as a practicing attorney, sole practitioner for 53 years. I'm presently still practicing, and before that or during that period of time, I was also had the opportunity and privilege to serve as the city treasurer. I had a conversation with my husband before he left our organization to become the city treasurer, and it's an excellent, by the way, it's an excellent choice.
Thank you.
Not that you need my approval, but
Always
I'm a
nice to
good
hear.
person and a very good friend. That said, I have to give you a Rhode Island side story to that. I went to Hope High. I graduated class of '62, well before you were all born. And his aunt was my classmate and a very good friend of mine at the time. She unfortunately passed away. And that's how a relationship with Maury, as well as being a mentor with me. Again, I like serving on it, and I like to help people that come before the board, especially residents. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Providence. I live approximately maybe about a mile from where I was born, Suffolk Street in the Eagle Park section of the city, as we all refer to certain sections. I now live in the Wanscott section of Providence, Wooded Road. And I just enjoy it. I feel as though it's any questions? More than happy to watch.
Well, I have to just start by saying thank you for your continued service. How many years again have you been on the board?
This board here, I believe it's 5 years.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I'd just like to thank you, and I'm going to open up I have committee members, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have anything to add to what was, what Mr. Packett had to say about, any of the activities the board?
Oh, no, he's right on point, with regards to, I get a little bit more exasperated than he does. He's much calmer when I see people with TSAs come before us and ask for relief and just. So, but I have to listen and give them the opportunity to have a hearing and then do the right thing,
Thank
as
you.
I say.
Thank you. We appreciate that. With that, do we have any discussion? Any vote?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Council Taylor, seconded by Council Ingersoll, all in favor,
Aye.
all opposed. Thank you so much for continuing to serve.
I appreciate it.
Okay. I am advised that, we have number 5, Mr. Salinger is not available this evening, so I would ask for
Motion to continue.
Second.
motion to continue made by Councilor Sanchez, seconded by Councilor Ingersoll, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Wonderful. Okay, now, Madam Clerk, item number 6.
Item 6, communication from the owner, the major dated January 12, 2024, informing the honorable member of the city council of the city to section 302B and 1009 of the Providence Charter of 1980, as amended, chapter 27, article 17, section 1703 and 1714 of the zoning ordinance and public law, chapter 45-50. Section 1331 passed in 1987, and state reappointed Andrea Maniotes of 20983, Providence, Rhode Island, 02906, as a member of the zoning board of review for a term to start on January 31st, 2029, and respectfully submits the same for your approval.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. May I have, would you please swear in? Is it Miss Manios? Thank you.
Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? It's the name against the record.
Thank you so much, for coming this evening. Thank you for your service on the zoning board of review. And if you wouldn't mind just giving us a little bit about your background and, why you would like to continue serving. Sure.
Madam Chair, excuse me, we have an exhibit.
I am so
Resume.
sorry. We are going to just hold on for a minute. And we have a motion, we're going to mark, the resume as exhibit 1. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion made by Councilor Vanderbock, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Wonderful, now we have your resume before us, this will help, but thank you, go right ahead.
So I was born and raised in Athens, Greece, and came to the United States, to go to college. First I was in North Carolina, and then I came to Rhode Island, and specifically Providence in '98. And I've just made myself at home. I find Providence has offered me everything that I missed in Durham. And especially from Athens. So I went to school here, and then I went to RISD. I graduated with a master's in architecture, and then was a practicing architect for about 20 years in a local architecture company. I recently, about almost 2 years ago now, I changed commissions and kind of went to the other side of the table to work for the Rhode Island School of Design as a planner and architect. So I think as part of my journey in Providence, when I was first working as an architect in Providence, most of the projects were outside of Providence proper. So I had a desire to kind of be more involved in the city. So slowly, I'm working, well, actually, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. So while still working on projects that were all over sort of New England, I had the opportunity to join the zoning board of review. And it's been a great way for me to give a little bit back to the city. I think what I offer the board, which is made up of attorneys, school supervisors, we're kind of all a mix. I'm able to hopefully help my fellow members reading plans and kind of helping the application become a little bit more clear depending on how it arrives. But I also love kind of getting to know pockets of Providence and getting to know pockets of the ordinance as is required of each application. a challenge that I think I'm getting better at, is that, as a board, we are not really, we're not like the CPC, we're not like the DDRC, we're not, there to exercise judgment, we're really there to read the ordinance and understand the intent of the ordinance, and then, make a decision based on hardship, based on, the exception that the applicant is requesting. So it's just been a pleasure to serve, and I'll continue to do that.
How many years have you served?
I think it was a 5-year term, yeah, so 5,
Okay.
yeah, so 20 years.
I really appreciate your service. I mean, I also served on the board of zoning review. And I can't begin to say how important it is to have someone with your background. Because you're right, lawyers, the whole 9 yards, but the architects can really kind of dig in to some of the details and educate the board. So I so appreciate, your desire to serve the community in this way. Before we started the meeting, I was just talking about some of the changes. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but the new laws were just enacted. I mean, not enacted, but are in effect as of January 1. And how does that affect the zoning board of review's job?
So, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I read the ordinance and I become familiar with it as each application runs before us. So the first meeting that we had was actually yesterday, and we served as a member, as the zoning board of appeals, and we heard a CPC appeal, and then another case was continued. So I'm not familiar with all the intricacies of the new ordinance. I do know that yesterday was our last CPC appeal, hearing the CPC appeal, but I know that there's a list of revisions that are gonna come into play. But it's really, on a case-by-case basis, there's a lot of different things that come before us, and we just come to that.
And so now the CPC appeals are going to,
I believe it's to the Superior Court, straight to
the Superior Court, which is a change.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big change. Okay, I'm gonna open it up for one more question today. I mean, do you feel you're supported in your role? And I just wanted to ask that, I mean, in terms of staffing and,
yeah, absolutely. Actually, I was going to mention that since I joined the board, I think, kudos to the current zoning official. I think the procedure and the process that kind of occurs before we hear the application, but before they come to us, has progressed so much that, most of the applications now, are not, to be frank, like a waste of time. They're there because they've been vetted by the zoning official, and there's merit to them. They're not always approved, but there's meat to them to be used to. And I think there's been an overhaul of the process of how to get to be, on the docket, to be heard about this review. So if that's, I don't know if I'm answering your question.
no, that's good. That's good. I'm gonna open it up to questions. Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you so much for your service. So right now we're going through the comprehensive plan. It's like a big thing. So I was just gonna ask, from my understanding, you use like the zoning code that is passed through the comprehensive plan. Is that correct, or?
So the zoning board of review it's not in our purview to assess the degree to which an applicant complies with the comprehensive plan. That is more the CPC. So I think if someone wants to go before the CPC for an approval to master plan or land development, they need to comply with the zoning ordinance, and they need to also comply with the comprehensive plan. And that's what the CPC hears. We are there more literally to approve a variance to the zoning ordinance.
Mhm. But the zoning ordinance does come out of the comp plan, is that correct?
I think the two,
Are the two
yeah.
separate?
They're separate, but the zoning ordinance was reflect the goals of the comp. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, the goals of the comp plan.
The zoning ordinance is very literal, you know, it says like if you're in zone, so and so your fence has to be 3 feet or 6 feet, so we don't. We don't really have the capacity for you to.
What are some of like the more frequent exceptions that come before you?
So. Fence height is one of them, for example, like setbacks, you know, when it comes to a lot, depending on the lot size, there's a lot of unique shapes and sizes to Providence, so sometimes, the setbacks cannot be. Fully complied with, there is use, so there's a lot of, not anymore as much, but, legal versus, non-legal, legal, non-conforming. Three unit apartments, 3 unit houses. Special use, depending on where you are in the zone. An applicant might come before us and ask to occupy a building in a different way than what's
It's muted, okay, yeah.
It's like so there's a matrix in the zoning ordinance, so depending on what zone. The address is, you're allowed to have a residence, to have a store, to have anything, and if it's not in that matrix. Then you would need to come before the zoning board to get a variance. There's parking lots that are left empty. That I think together with a comprehensive plan, that lot is not supposed to be a parking lot for a long time. So someone would come before us and say, we've tried, we've looked at developing this lot, it doesn't work right now, can we extend it to stay a parking lot? I think these are the ones that come to mind.
Have you had any cannabis related zoning stuff before you in the past?
There was one, I'm afraid the details escape me, but there was
No, it's okay.
Because I don't remember the details to.
No, it's okay. I'm just bringing it up because that's something that me and a few other counselors are currently working on. Cannabis zoning is completely non-existent for recreational retail in the city, so we're trying to work with folks to see what might make sense, especially there's a lot of licenses that are gonna get approved from the state. So I'm sure that's something that we should keep an eye out.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Yes, yes.
Service, I think I'm your council person, so thank you for all your service.
Thank you.
Oh, I looked it up on the map. Sure, she named Helen, so I just have to check the year, even inside the odds. Just wanted to be sure.
Well, I have to thank you because it's an important board. And we really appreciate it. It takes a while, in my opinion, to learn the nuances and really, settle in. So I appreciate that you're willing to continue this. Okay, with that, do we have discussion, motion to approve?
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Engelbaum, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hey, I am told that Mr. Cleary is also unavailable this evening. So I'm going to ask for a motion to continue in item number 7. So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Engelbaum, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor? Aye. And all opposed? And with that, that is the end of our agenda. Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Engelbaum, seconded by Councilor Taylor, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you, thanks. Yes.
Thank you for your service. Colleagues.
Yeah.
I know you guys don't get enough.